"I'm too young to be your wife," the 13-year-old whispered, her voice breaking as she stared up at the wealthy cowboy who just offered her everything. But he wasn't asking what she thought he was asking. "Before we begin, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and let me know where in the world you're watching from right now. Are you listening from Texas, California, maybe somewhere across the ocean? I read every single comment, and I love knowing where this story is reaching. Now, let me take you back to 1892, to a dusty cattle town in Montana, where a young girl's life was about to change forever. The auction block was rough beneath Josie's bare feet. She stood there in the blazing July sun, her hands tied in front of her, her dark hair matted with sweat and dirt. 13 years old, orphaned 6 months ago when fever took both her parents within 3 days of each other. No relatives, no money, no choices. The auctioneer's voice boomed across the town square. "Strong girl, good for cooking, cleaning, field work. Starting bid, $20. Josie kept her eyes down. She'd learned not to look at the faces in the crowd. Farmers with cruel eyes, saloon owners with worse intentions, women who wanted unpaid servants to work until their hands bled. "20, someone called. "25, another voice shouted. She felt sick. This was how it ended. Sold like cattle, used until she broke, maybe dead by 16, like the other orphan girls she'd heard about in whispered conversations. $30, the voice was rough, tobacco-stained. The auctioneer grinned. $30 from Mr. Hutchins. Any other? $500. The crowd went silent. Josie's head snapped up. A man stood at the back of the crowd, tall, maybe 30 years old, wearing a black hat, a clean shirt despite the dust, and boots that probably cost more than most folks in this town made in a year. His face was weathered but handsome, with a jaw that looked like carved from stone, and eyes the color of a winter sky. The auctioneer stuttered. $500? Sir, I think you You heard me." The man's voice was quiet, but it cut through the square like a blade. $500, cash, right now. He pulled a roll of bills from his vest pocket. Real money, more money than Josie had ever seen in her life. The auctioneer's hand shook as he took it. Sold to Mr. Calloway." The crowd parted as the man, Mr. Calloway, walked toward the auction block. Whispers followed him like wind through wheat. "That's James Calloway, owns the biggest ranch in 3 territories. Lost his wife 2 years back. Tragic thing. Why is he buying an orphan girl? That ain't right." Calloway's eyes met Josie's, and for the first time since 6 months, she felt something other than fear. She felt seen. He untied her hands himself, his fingers gentle despite their calluses. "You got a name?" "Josie." Her voice came out barely a whisper. "Josie Monroe." "Well, Josie Monroe." He draped his jacket over her shoulders. It was huge on her, but it was clean and it was warm. "Let's go home." The Calloway Ranch was bigger than anything Josie had ever imagined. Rolling hills, thousands of cattle, a house that looked like something from a storybook, 2 stories tall, with real glass windows, and a porch that wrapped all the way around. Workers everywhere, tending horses, mending fences, going about their business. But it was the quiet that struck her most. No shouting, no cruelty, just peace. Calloway's housekeeper, an older woman named Margaret, met him at the door. Her eyes widened when she saw Josie. "James Calloway, what have you done?" Found someone who needs help, Maggie. He gently guided Josie inside. This is Josie. She'll be staying with us. Margaret's expression softened immediately. Oh, you poor dear. Look at you, skin and bones. Come on, let's get you cleaned up and fed. An hour later, Josie sat in a real bathtub for the first time in months. An hour after that, she wore a clean dress, simple, but it fit. And when she came down to dinner, the table was set with more food than she'd seen in half a year. Calloway sat at the head of the table, and he gestured to the chair beside him. Sit. Josie hesitated. Where do you want me to work? The kitchen? The stables? I can work. Calloway's brow furrowed. Josie, I didn't bring you here to work. Then why? The question burst out before she could stop it. Why did you buy me? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough with old pain. 2 years ago, Clara died giving birth to our daughter. The baby, she didn't make it either. This house has been empty since then. Too empty, too quiet. I'm not looking for a worker, Josie. I'm looking for family. Josie's throat tightened. I don't understand. I want to adopt you. He looked at her directly, legally, properly. I want you to be my daughter. No obligations, no expectations. Just a home, a real home, if you'll have it. Tears burned in Josie's eyes. Why me? Because when I looked at you up on that block, I saw my Clara. Same fire in your eyes, same determination not to break. He paused, and because no child should be sold like property, not while I have the power to stop it. For the first time since her parents died, Josie cried. Not tears of fear or grief, but tears of relief, of hope. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll stay. 3 months passed like a dream. Josie learned to ride horses. She helped Margaret in the kitchen, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She learned to read better with Calloway's patient teaching. She laughed. She smiled. She felt safe. But safety, she was about to learn, was fragile. It was late September when the first threat arrived. Josie was in the stable, brushing down her horse, a gentle mare Calloway had given her, when she heard voices from outside. You made a mistake, Calloway. She peeked through the stable door. 3 men stood in the yard, rough men, armed. The one in front had a badge pinned to his vest, but it looked tarnished, wrong somehow. Sheriff Dutch. Calloway's voice was cold. What brings you to my property? That girl you bought. Dutch spat tobacco juice into the dirt. She was supposed to go to Hutchins. He had a legal claim. He had a losing bid. That's not a claim. Hutchins is my business partner. What's bad for him is bad for me. Dutch's hand rested on his gun. I'm here to collect the girl. You'll get your money back. No. No? Dutch laughed. You're refusing a lawful order? There's nothing lawful about you, Dutch. Everyone knows you and Hutchins run half the crime in this territory. Calloway stepped forward. Josie is my daughter now, legally adopted, papers filed in the territorial capital. You've got no claim. Dutch's face darkened. You think papers mean anything out here? You think I won't burn this pretty ranch to the ground? Josie's blood ran cold, but Calloway didn't flinch. You're welcome to try, but I've got 35 armed ranch hands who won't take kindly to threats against their home, so I suggest you get off my property before this gets ugly. For a long moment the men stared at each other. Then Dutch smiled. It was the smile of a snake. You've made an enemy today, Calloway, and enemies don't last long in Montana. He turned to leave, then called over his shoulder, "Enjoy that girl while you can. One way or another, Hutchins gets what he paid for." As the men rode away, Josie stumbled out of the stable. Calloway turned, saw her face. "You heard?" She nodded, trembling. "I should leave. I'm putting you in danger. I should—" He crossed the yard in 3 strides and put his hands on her shoulders. Firm, steady. "Listen to me, Josie. You're not leaving. You're not running. This is your home, and I protect what's mine." His eyes were fierce. "Do you understand? I don't care what threats come. I don't care what it costs. You're my daughter, and nobody takes you from me." Josie threw her arms around him and held on tight. But even as Calloway held her, she saw something in his face. Worry. Because Dutch wasn't bluffing. The war had begun. 2 weeks later, the first fire started. It was midnight when Josie woke to shouting and the smell of smoke. She ran to her window and saw flames. The western fence line was ablaze, and cattle were stampeding in panic. Calloway burst into her room, already dressed. "Stay in the house. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone but me or Maggie." "What's happening?" "Dutch." The word came out like a curse. "He's trying to scare us. Won't work." He started to leave, then turned back. "Josie, no matter what you hear tonight, stay inside. Promise me." "I promise." She watched from her window as Calloway and his men fought the fire. Hours passed. They saved most of the cattle, but a section of fence was destroyed. It was just the beginning. Over the next month, the attacks escalated. Poisoned water troughs, stolen horses, ranch hands ambushed on the road. One man, young, barely 20, died from a gunshot wound. Dutch's men were never caught, but everyone knew who was behind it. Josie watched Calloway grow thinner, more tired. The weight of protecting the ranch and protecting her was crushing him, and she knew it. One night she found him on the porch, staring out at the darkness. "You should send me away," she said quietly. He didn't turn. "We've been through this. People are dying because of me. People are dying because Dutch and Hutchins are evil men." Now he looked at her. "This isn't your fault, Josie. But if you left, it wouldn't stop. They'd just find another reason to attack, and I'd have lost the one good thing in my life." His voice cracked. "Don't ask me to give that up." Josie sat beside him. "I'm scared." "Me too. What are we going to do?" Calloway was quiet for a long time. "I'm gonna end this, one way or another." That's when Josie knew he was planning something dangerous. The next morning, Calloway announced he was riding into town. "I'm gonna talk to the territorial marshal, get Dutch removed of office." He checked his gun. "I've got evidence of his crimes, witnesses willing to testify. This ends today." Josie grabbed his arm. "Don't go. It's a trap. You know it's a trap." "Maybe, but I can't keep living like this. You can't keep living like this." "Then take your men. If I take my men, Dutch will attack the ranch while we're gone." He cupped her face in his hands. "Josie, listen, I've faced down worse than Dutch. I was a cavalry officer before I became a rancher. I can handle myself." "Promise you'll come back?" He smiled. "I promise." But as she watched him ride away, Josie felt a terrible certainty in her chest. She was never gonna see him again. The hours crawled past. Noon came and went, then afternoon, then sunset. Calloway didn't return. Maggie tried to stay calm, but Josie could see the fear in her eyes. The ranch hands gathered in worried clusters, whispering, and then, just after dark, a rider came thundering up the road, one of Calloway's men. Tom, his name was. His horse was lathered with sweat, and blood stained his shirt. "They ambushed him!"
Tom shouted as he dismounted. "Dutch and 20 men, they were waiting on the road to town. Mr. Calloway fought back, killed 3 of them, but they got him. They took him prisoner." Josie's world tilted. "Where?" "Dutch's ranch, 10 miles north." Tom looked desperate. "They're gonna hang him at dawn. Said it's justice for the men he killed." "We have to save him." Josie turned to the gathered ranch hands. "We have to—" "We're 30 men against 100, one of the older hands said grimly. "Dutch has been hiring guns for weeks. If we attack, we'll all die and the ranch will burn." "So we just let him hang?" Josie's voice broke. "There's nothing we can do, girl." The old hand looked at her with pity. "I'm sorry, but Mr. Calloway knew the risks." Josie ran. She ran to the stable, saddled her mare, and rode into the night before anyone could stop her, because she just realized something. Dutch didn't want Calloway. He wanted her, and she was going to give him exactly what he wanted. Dutch's ranch was a fortress, guards everywhere, torches burning, men drinking and laughing, celebrating their victory. Josie rode right up to the front gate. "I'm here to see Sheriff Dutch," she called out. The guards stared at her. "What the—" "Tell him Josie Monroe wants to make a deal." 5 minutes later, she was standing in Dutch's office. He sat behind a big desk, grinning like a wolf. Hutchins stood beside him, the man who'd wanted a buyer at the auction, the man who'd started all this. "Well, well," Dutch leaned back in his chair. "The little orphan girl, come to beg for Calloway's life? I came to trade, me for him. That's what you wanted all along, isn't it? You let Calloway go, and I'll go with Hutchins. No fight, no trouble." Hutchins' eyes gleamed. "Smart girl." Dutch studied her. "And why would I make that trade when I can just hang Calloway and take you anyway? Because if you do that, you'll never stop looking over your shoulder." Josie met his eyes. "Calloway's men will hunt you forever. The territorial marshal will investigate. You'll have to run, and you'll lose everything you built here." She paused. "But if you let him go, if you take me willingly, everyone thinks it's settled. A fair trade, no more war." Dutch and Hutchins exchanged glances. "She's right," Hutchins said slowly. "Hanging a rich rancher will bring heat we don't need. But if the girl comes willingly—" Dutch smiled. "Deal. You stay here tonight. Tomorrow morning we let Calloway go, and you belong to Hutchins." Josie's stomach turned, but she nodded. "I want to see Calloway first, to say goodbye." "Fine, but no tricks." They took her to the barn where Calloway was being held. He was chained to a post, blood on his face, but alive. When he saw Josie, his eyes went wide of horror. "No! Josie, no! What did you do?" The guard stepped back to give him a moment of privacy. Josie knelt beside him. "I'm saving you." "You stupid, brave—" He choked on emotion. "You can't do this. I won't let you." "You don't have a choice." She gripped his hand tighter. "They're letting you go tomorrow. You're gonna live, and you're gonna go home, and you're gonna be safe." "And you? What about you?" Josie's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "I'll figure something out. I always do." "Josie, listen to me." She gripped his hand tighter. "I saved you. You gave me 3 months of happiness when I thought I'd never be happy again. You were the first person in my life who chose me, who protected me, who loved me like I mattered." Tears ran down her face. "So now it's my turn. I'm choosing you. I'm protecting you, because you matter to me more than anything in this world." Calloway was crying now, too. "You're my daughter, my little girl. I can't lose you. And I can't lose you." She kissed his forehead. "So please, when they let you go tomorrow, ride away. Don't look back. Don't try to rescue me. Just live. Be happy. Remember me." "I'll come for you," he whispered fiercely. "I swear to God, Josie, I'll find a way." "Time's up." Dutch's voice cut through the barn. "Say your goodbyes, girl." Josie stood. She looked at Calloway one last time. "I love you, Dad." It was the first time she'd called him that, and as the guards pulled her away, she heard him scream her name. That night, locked in a room in Dutch's house, Josie planned. She wasn't giving up. She'd bought Calloway's laugh, but she wasn't about to throw away her own. The window was nailed shut, but the wood was old. She used a metal bed frame to pry it open, inch by agonizing inch, trying to stay quiet. Hours passed. Finally, just before dawn, the window gave way. Josie squeezed through and dropped to the ground. The ranch was quiet. Most of the men were asleep, drunk from celebrating their victory. She ran to the stable, but she only made halfway before a voice stopped her cold. "Going somewhere?" Hutchins stepped out of the shadows, gun in hand. Josie froze. "You really think I'm stupid enough to trust you?" Hutchins laughed. "I've been watching that window all night, waiting. Please, you're mine."
You're mine now, girl. Bought and paid for. And when I'm done with you, I'll sell you to someone else, and they'll use you up until there's nothing. The gunshot was deafening. Hutchins stumbled, eyes wide, blood blooming on his chest. He fell. Behind him stood Calloway, blooded, unchained, holding a smoking gun. "You came back," Josie whispered. "Of course I came back." He grabbed her hand. "Run!" They ran as Dutch's man woke and shouted. Bullets whizzed past them. Calloway fired back, covering Josie as they reached the horses. "Where's your horse?" Josie shouted. "Shot during the ambush. We're riding double." He lifted her onto his horse, swung up behind her, and kicked the animal into a gallop. They raced through the darkness, Dutch's man in pursuit. "How did you escape?" Josie yelled over the thunder of hooves. Tom and 15 men attacked from the east as a distraction, drew most of Dutch's forces away. Calloway leaned low over the horse's neck. "Hold on." They rode hard for 20 minutes, but Dutch's men were gaining. And then, ahead, Josie saw something that made her heart soar. The rest of Calloway's ranch hands, 30 strong, waiting at the property line. The pursuers saw them too and pulled up short. Dutch himself rode to the front, face twisted with rage. "This isn't over, Calloway." "Yes," Calloway said quietly. "It is." He pulled out a piece of paper. "This is a federal warrant for your arrest. Turns out the territorial marshal was very interested in the evidence I gave him. He's on his way here now with 20 soldiers." Dutch's face went white. "You have two choices," Calloway continued. "Run now and maybe escape, or stay and hang for murder, arson, and kidnapping." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Dutch yanked his horse around and fled into the darkness, his man following. Josie started laughing and crying and couldn't stop either one. Calloway held her as the sun rose over Montana. "It's over," Calloway murmured. "You're safe. You're home." 6 months later, spring came to the Calloway ranch. The fences were rebuilt. New cattle grazed in the fields. The ranch hands who died were buried with honor on the hill overlooking the valley. Dutch was never found, probably fled to Canada or Mexico. But Hutchins was dead, and without them, the criminal empire they'd built collapsed. Life returned to normal, or as normal as life could be after everything they'd survived. Josie turned 14 in April. Calloway threw her a birthday party, the first real birthday she'd ever celebrated. There was cake, presents, laughter. But that evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Calloway grew serious. "I need to talk to you about something." Josie tensed. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, it's just—" He struggled for words. "Josie, when I adopted you, I did it to give you a home, a family. and you become more important to me than I ever imagined possible. You're important to me, too. I know. That's why I need to ask you this." He pulled out a small box and opened it. Inside was a ring, simple, silver, with a small blue stone. Josie's breath caught. "What?" This was Clara's wedding ring. Calloway's voice was thick with emotion. "I want you to have it, not because I'm trying to replace her. Nobody could do that. But because you've brought light back into this house. You've reminded me what it means to love someone, to protect someone, to be willing to die for someone." He took her hand. "Josie Monroe Calloway, when you're older, when you're actually old enough, when you're 18 or 20 or whenever you're ready, would you consider marrying me?" Josie stared at him. "I know it's strange," he rushed on. "I know people will talk, but I don't care about any of that. I just know that you're the strongest, bravest person I've ever met, and I don't want to imagine my life without you in it." "I'm too young to be your wife," Josie whispered. Calloway's face fell. "I know. I said when you're older." "No, I mean I'm too young now, but I won't always be." She took the ring and slipped it onto her finger. It was too big, but she didn't care. "Ask me again in 5 years." Calloway laughed, a sound of pure relief and joy. 5 years? 5 years, when I'm 19, when I've grown up enough to really understand what I'm choosing. She looked at him seriously. "Because I want to choose you, Dad, but I want to choose you as a grown woman, not as a scared girl who owes you everything. You don't owe me anything. I know. That's why I want to do this right." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "So yes, ask me in 5 years, and my answer will be yes." They sat in comfortable silence as the stars came out. "What do I call you until then?" Calloway asked, "if you're going to be my wife someday?" Josie thought about it. "How about we keep it simple? You saved me, so you're my hero, and I'm your girl." "My girl," he smiled. "I like that." "Besides," Josie added with a grin, "if people are going to talk anyway, we might as well give 'em something good to talk about." Calloway laughed and pulled her close, and as the Montana night settled around them, Josie realized something. She'd started this journey as an orphan on an auction block, with no future and no hope. Now she had everything: a home, a father, a future. And in 5 years, if she still felt the same, if he still felt the same, she'd have a husband who'd proven he'd fight the world to keep her safe. It wasn't a conventional happy ending, but it was hers, and that made it perfect. The wedding was small, just close friends, ranch hands who'd become family. Margaret dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief, Tom standing as Calloway's best man. Josie wore white lace. She was 19 now, grown into a beautiful woman, but with the same fire in her eyes that Calloway had seen on the auction block 7 years before. "Do you, James Calloway, take Josie to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." "And do you, Josie Monroe Calloway, take James to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Josie smiled. "I waited 5 years to say this. Yes, I absolutely do." They kissed as husband and wife, and the small gathering erupted in cheers. That night, on the porch where they'd spent so many evenings, Calloway held his wife close. Was it worth the wait? Every single day. Josie looked up at him. "You know what I realized? You didn't just save my life that day at the auction. You saved my soul. You taught me that I was worth protecting, worth loving, worth choosing." "You taught me something too," Calloway said softly. "You taught me that it's possible to love again after loss, that family isn't just blood, it's choice, and that sometimes the most broken things become the most beautiful when they're given a chance to heal."
They stood together under the Montana stars, two people who'd found each other in the darkest moment and built something extraordinary from the ashes of their pain. The ranch stretched out before them, peaceful and prosperous, their home, their future, their happily ever after. And if people talked, and oh, they talked, neither Josie nor Calloway cared, because they knew the truth. Love doesn't follow rules. It doesn't care about age or convention or what's proper. It just is. And theirs had been forged in fire, tested by danger, and proven by time. That was all that mattered. That was everything. The end. Thank you for watching this story to the very end. If it touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional tales from the Old West. And don't forget, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I love hearing from you all. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most beautiful love stories are the ones that take time to bloom.